The extreme sports genre got its start on the PlayStation very early. We're talking launch day early. It launched with ESPN Extreme Games. This was a game that incorporated skateboarding, inline skating, street lugeing, mountain biking, although it was more a road rash kind of game than a typical extreme sports game like we're used to today. This really got the genre started, introducing skateboards for the first time. There was fighting as you go downhill or from point A to point B from start to finish. As I mentioned, it's very much like a road rash game. And one of the interesting things about this, because of the ESPN branding, is that we actually got some full motion video sequences with Susie Kolber, who's now part of the ESPN Monday Night Football crew. So if you get this particular copy of the game and not one Extreme, you can see Susie in some very quick full motion video sequences. And she also either congratulates you if you win or chides you if you lose. So that's pretty interesting. Of course, we were really into full motion video at this time, introducing multimedia to consoles. It was still pretty new and certainly blew some minds. So ESPN Extreme Games sold pretty well, so the sequel to Extreme, you knew that was going to happen. This is the greatest hits copy. Unfortunately, I don't have a black label copy. Still looking for one of those. This added snowboarding to the mix, as well as inline skating, mountain biking, and skateboarding. There were new levels at play here. I thought this is a more well-rounded game than ESPN Extreme Games was, but it loses the full motion video. It loses the ESPN licensing, so it's more a straight racing/fighting game with some extreme elements to it. I enjoy playing this quite a bit, even though it is a little bit on the generic side. So speaking of snowboards, when you're thinking about extreme sports, you think about snowboarding, and Sony had us covered with the release of Coolboarders. I believe this was from 1996 or 1997. This is a snowboarding game in every sense of the word, going down hills and pulling off tricks. I am terrible at this game, but nevertheless, because it's an extreme kind of game and because I like them, I had to go ahead and buy it. That would lead to the sequel, which is much more visible, much more memorable for a lot of people who had PlayStations back at this time. This is Coolboarders 2. This is a black label copy of this game. This was on one of the first PlayStation magazine demo discs, I believe. So that's what got me to buy the game and subsequently suck at it. But again, just like its predecessor, we're talking about a lot of tricks, going downhill. There are big air contests and board parks and a whole bunch of other really cool stuff in this game. This and its predecessor were released as PlayStation Classics or PS1 Classics for the PlayStation 3 back when that was a thing. So we've talked about extreme games, we've talked about racing and fighting, then we've talked about snowboarding and pulling tricks. But we're thinking when we're thinking about extreme games, we're thinking about skateboards, or at least most of us are. Now, before I talk about more skateboarding games for the PlayStation, I wanted to touch on one of my favorite skateboarding games of all time, which is an arcade game. It never found its way home, but it's one that I loved playing and I sunk a ton of tokens into back when it was in arcades. I'm talking about Sega's Top Skater. This thing had an analog skateboard controller that you would stand on, and you would move from side to side, and you would kick the tail in order to do tricks, in order to ollie. It was an awesome experience. The soundtrack was all punk. It had a lot of Pennywise in it, which I really liked. And again, I think it was like 4 tokens per play. So I would go literally through $10 worth of tokens playing this game. And I would only play the first stage because it was the easiest, because it made me feel invincible. And it was a lot of fun to play. Unfortunately, we never got that game translated to home console. But we did get something that was pretty close, and it is one of my favorite PlayStation games, even though many of you probably would think that I'm crazy. This is Street Skater, which was released in 1999. Yes, that's right. This game is now 20 years old. This game was localized by Electronic Arts, but was developed by Microcabin. This is an arcade game through and through. It is very linear, although there are different scoring lines for each stage. You move on by getting a certain amount of points before the time runs out. So this is very arcade-like. You can probably blow through both modes of play or both playthroughs probably in one sitting. But that's okay, because that's what arcade games are, is there are things that you can play in short bursts that are a lot of fun to play. Not to mention the fact, this is one of the games that if you take the disc out and you put it in a CD player, you can actually check out the Red Book Audio soundtrack, which has artists like Less Than Jake, H2O, Straight Faced, Die Against Die, The Pie Tasters, and more. This I used to put in my CD player all the time and listen to the music, and it's the way that I found out about a lot of these bands. So that's pretty unique. This game did spawn a sequel, Street Skater 2, and there's a reason I don't have it on video, because it's pretty terrible, so I really don't want to talk about it. But if we're talking about PlayStation skateboarding games, you know there's only one title that's going to come to your mind. The first one that comes to your mind, and it also is turning 20 years old this year. Yes, I am talking about Activision's Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. This was the game, not kidding, that almost made me late for my wedding. This was a game when I was deathly ill and had to miss time from work, which never happened. I was working for FuncoLand at the time. This is all I played. This is all I could think about. This is all I wanted to use my controller for. Heck, before the game came out, when it was just a demo, and there was just a demo available, I had it running in my store, and my employees and I would have high-scoring contests all the time, and that was just the warehouse level. So imagine playing all the different stages in this game, checking out all the different scoring lines. And of course, who can forget the amazing soundtrack here? Primus, Dead Kennedys, Goldfinger's Superman is a song that always jumps to the forefront when you're thinking about this game. Absolutely fantastic game, and honestly, I can go back and I can play this game again and again 20 years later. A fantastic game, one of my favorite games of all time. And you know, of course, that was also going to spawn a sequel, right? Here is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, a game that many feel is superior to the original. I can understand why with the introduction of the manual and some of the larger levels of play, not to mention the fact you can create a skater, which is a pretty interesting option. The soundtrack is much more diverse, and this game, again, just like its predecessor, is a lot of fun to play. So the Tony Hawk games had the skateboarding genre really tightly held. There were other skateboarding games that kind of came and went. Some shouldn't have gone under the radar, such as Rockstar's Thrasher State and Destroy, which was an absolutely fantastic game, but again, slid under the radar because Tony Hawk was so popular. The first game that I'm going to open for Unsealed is another game that kind of flew under the radar a little bit, and while it is not as top quality or as well recognized as the Tony Hawk games, it is a game that I played a lot of in the year 2000. I am talking about Grind Session, which was published by Sony Computer Entertainment and developed by a team called Shaba Games. And this company would go on to develop a Razor Freestyle scooter and would also be acquired by Activision and would make some of their Tony Hawk games, or kind of make them playable on the PlayStation console. So Tony Hawk 3 and Tony Hawk 4, those were Shaba releases that were based on Neversoft efforts. So as you look here, Grind Session, your ride is here. This is what we got on the back of the case. It's a free world, skate it says here. Defy gravity in tournament play and the occasional city ordinance in 8 insane locations, including Tough Van's Triple Crown of skateboarding events. That was one of the key things in this game, is it had a Vans licensing agreement for the Triple Crown of skateboarding. So if you were really into the sport at the time, that was a pretty big deal. You can own the concrete and leave the week behind with 6 top pros, including Ed Templeton, John Cardiel, Cara Beth Burnside, Willie Santos, Pigpen, and Daiwan Song. Incredible trick combos and potential bone-crushing slams. Play chicken with subway trains or dominate verts that'll challenge even the toughest skaters' fly Q. See what they did there? Pull off your best trick in high-pressure tech matches. See how sick you can get. And just like Tony Hawk, this had its own licensed soundtrack, which was also an eclectic mix, much like Tony Hawk 2 was. Black Flag, Dr. Octagon, KRS-One, Manor Astroman, NoFX, Sonic Youth, and more. It's a pretty interesting soundtrack. Now, this is brand new. You can see here the Grind Session ID sticker. We're going to go ahead and we're going to open this up. This is going to be a bonus episode where you're going to get 2 games that we're going to open up. And yeah, because I wanted to talk about the Xtreme Sports genesis, if you will, on the PlayStation, because the PlayStation has quite a few Xtreme games. I mean, we talked about Coolboarders. We talked about the Xtreme Games series. Just right there, you're talking about 7 or 8 games alone. So as you take the wrapping off, and then we're going to take the sticker off here. There is the sticker. Bye-bye. When we open up the case, oh, got to take the bottom off there. There we go. When we open up the case, oh yeah, I remember this. I love the way this disc looks. And it's not like it's anything special. Maybe it's just a color that calls out to me, but you can see like that red there. We also have the PlayStation Underground mail-in card. So if you weren't part of the PlayStation Underground yet, man, what's wrong with you? You could certainly be a part of that. And here is the instruction manual. I don't believe it's in color. It is, actually. I'm glad I'm wrong on this. It is in color, as you can see here. Talking about the play controls. And wow, look at all of the different trick combinations or the trick input entries that you have here. It's something you'll definitely learn as you play the game. This was very much like a Tony Hawk game. There was a career mode in the game where you had to accomplish a certain number of objectives before time ran out. There was also something in this game called Skater's Eye, where it is almost like a first-person mode where you could look around and identify certain scoring lines. And if you were to complete those combo lines, you would get extra bonus points. I thought that that was pretty unique, but more or less, this is patterned after Tony Hawk from the top on down. That doesn't make it a bad game at all. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, but it is not a Tony Hawk game. So I recommend this if you happen to find it for cheap. But for me, it's a game that I played a lot in 2000 because I was just enamored with skateboarding games between 1999 and, say, 2001. So that is Grind Session, and I have one more game here, and it is really the coolest part of this video, although Grind Session is pretty cool too because it's a game I played so much back in 2000. So, I showed you Tony Hawk. I showed you Tony Hawk 2. When we moved to the PlayStation 2, you knew that a third Tony Hawk game was going to come out. And yes, that's right. I do have not only a brand new copy of Tony Hawk 3, it is a Black Label copy, not a Greatest Hits copy. I am super excited about this. This is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 right here. You can see the ID sticker at the top. And this is also pretty cool because there is a Kelly Slater DVD that is packaged in with this particular one. So we'll take a look and see what that's about. Tony Hawk 3 is my favorite game in this series, bar none. As much as I love Tony Hawk, and I played the heck out of that game, as much as I love Tony Hawk 2, this is the game that I thought got all of the pieces just right. The addition of the revert I thought was huge for trick lines, for scoring a ton of points. I love the level layouts. I love the soundtrack in this game. It moves at 60 frames per second instead of 30, so there's no more slowdown like we saw in the original PlayStation. This game has it all. Plus, it has online play if you happen to have an online connection for your PS2. Let's go ahead and open this up because I know this video is run long, but I am super excited for this because I got this in and I had no idea that this was going to be included with or it was going to include a different DVD. And of course, I'm going to be stuck here trying to get this open. Oh boy, talk amongst yourselves for a minute. This is going to be one of the long videos. Or you can just skip ahead a little bit. There we go. I got it. Okay. This is going to be sealed extra tightly because it comes with the DVD. So let's take a look at the DVD first. This is from Activision 02. I think this was a re-release of the game, actually, that came with this just before Kelly Slater's Pro Surfer came out. So this is what the DVD looks like. It's pretty basic. You're going to see a lot of surfing in this particular DVD. And now, the main attraction, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3. Welcome to my world, it says here. Skate as a legendary Tony Hawk or choose from a dream team of 12 different pro skaters. Trick off everything in 8 massive living levels, online and multiplayer play. Enhance skate park editor and create a skater, now featuring female skaters. Incredible new tricks with the revert, as I talked about, featuring songs by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Exhibit, and Alien Ant Farm, and many, many more. This game is awesome. It will melt your face. Not literally, of course, but it is that good. I could go on and on and on and on about how I feel about this game, about the dozens of times that I've gone back and I've replayed the campaign just because I can't get enough. And now I get to open the game just like I did back in 2001. And let me tell you, it is exciting to be able to do this. Of course, I'm having trouble getting the wrapping off. That's okay. I'm going to get there. There we go. Oh, man. This is awesome. And again, Tony Hawk 3. Oh, God. I can't believe I'm getting a chance to open this again. I remember how excited I was when I got this the first time, and I'm just as excited now. This is so cool to be able to open this up brand new, just like I did 19 years ago. When we open this up, we do see the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 disc. We also have the instruction manual with the cover faced out. This definitely is a re-release because we have an ad for Sean Palmer's Pro Snowboarder, a game we've also covered on this particular show in a past episode. When we open up the manual, unfortunately, it is in black and white, but again, it doesn't really matter. You get a look at the different skaters in the game. Rune Glifberg is back here. I used to use the Christ-Air all the time in the original Tony Hawk games. Oh my gosh. Tony, Eric Costin, Bucky Lassick, Bam Margera. Say what you will about having Bam in the game. A lot of people kind of picked on the fact that Bam was in it. I was fine with it, but I was a big Jackass fan at the time, and I still am today, honestly. Rodney Mullen is here, Chad Muska, Jeff Rowley, Andrew Reynolds, Alyssa Steamer is here, Jamie Thomas. The list goes on. You could certainly make out your own skater. That's what I did all the time. I created myself and put myself in the game because heaven knows I can't skate in real life. But in this one, it allows me to skate without going to the emergency room, so that is pretty awesome. Again, you play through levels just like you usually do. You have to collect skate. You have to get certain high scores before the time runs out. You have to knock things over, collect items. It is a lot of fun to play. And again, the scoring system, because of the Revert edition, you can rack up tons and tons and tons of points. And it is an absolute blast to play. And if you don't have this in your collection and you have a PS2, stop watching this video right now. Find a copy of it on Amazon. Check your local game store and pick this up. I cannot recommend this enough. In terms of my top 10 favorite video games of all time ever, this one is on it. And this game came out in 2001. So think about, I've been playing games for over 40 years. So think about all the different games that I've played, and this game is in my top 10. Not quite number one. We all know that NBA Jam is number one, but this one, this is pretty darn close. And the fact that I'm going to be able to play it brand new, I am excited about this. I'm going to be able to go ahead and get back into the campaign and redo it again. Maybe I'll do a little bit of that before I head to Florida in a couple of days. But I'm super excited about that. And it's been awesome to go ahead and open this with you and show you what is on the inside. It's not very exciting. We have a warranty card here that you have to place a stamp on, but you've seen these before. And I mean, what else can you say? The Tony Hawk games were awesome, and unfortunately, they kind of declined a little bit. I think if you ask me to rank the games, this is number one in my book. And then, so 3, 1, 2. Tony Hawk's Underground 2, believe it or not. Then 4, and then Tony Hawk's Underground. And then we get into the later ones that really kind of jump the shark a little bit. I don't want to talk about those. But yeah, this is my number one. This is my favorite skateboarding game. This is my favorite Tony Hawk game. This game is a lot of fun to play. And I will stop gushing now because this video has run very long. So what are your memories of the Xtreme sports games for the PlayStation and the PS2? I'd love to hear from you. Tell me about your own experiences. Share them with me as I've shared them with you in this video. I really do appreciate you taking the extra time to check out this supersized episode of Unsealed. I really appreciate it. And until the next time, everybody, take care of yourselves and each other. See you later, everybody.